What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to talk about how you can't actually activate your glutes, because if you could probably activate them, you'd probably fall over. The whole concept makes very little sense, and today this video is going to discuss why it doesn't make much sense and how we can better use words to describe people's probably weak glutes and not inactive glutes. No one's glutes are inactive. If they were, you wouldn't be able to use your lower body and you'd probably poop yourself. I don't know, it'd be a pretty terrible situation, but let's just talk about it. So it's not that these concepts are untrue, they're just really over-exaggerated, and a lot of enthusiasm goes into claims like you can't activate your glutes. It's more to do with weakness, maybe some technique issues from motor learning adaptations, but very little to do with the inability to actually fire your glutes. You have to understand that if you couldn't fire them, you would just fall over and not be able to use your legs. That would be it. So don't get me wrong, I still use terms like activation to describe these exercises, like side-lying hip abductions or clams, or the ever so popular bad girls. These exercises these names are conventional, so I use terms like activation to describe them. Similarly, I use words like tone to describe certain exercise interventions, not because muscles are toning, but because people liken that term to their goals. Glute activation can still be useful in certain population groups. For instance, injured population groups or rehab population groups, there are or could be some instances where glute activation isolation drills are effective means. There is research showing that in athletic populations with pre-existing injuries, there is glute weakness, but there is no inactivation or inhibition of activation. Those things are two different things. Activation implies that your glutes have like an off or on switch and they can just turn off. Your glutes can be weak, but that doesn't mean that they're inactive. They will always be firing and doing something, they just don't fire as good as other muscles. Studies report that healthy athletic population groups don't need glute activation drills like injured population groups do. I think it's wrong to say that everyone needs to do glute activation because everyone has weak glutes. That's definitely not true, and there is some research showing that just doing squats and lunges and single leg RDLs, and I mentioned single leg exercises because they tended to be higher activation levels, tended to increase glute strength and activate the glutes to a substantial degree when compared to isolation drills like side-lying hip abductions or those clams. There is a study, what do you know? There is a study showing that glute activation was the same with a normal dynamic warm-up consisting of squats and butt kicks and all that sort of stuff, to just glute activation drills that are conventional in current strength and conditioning practices today. This same study also reported that a lot of the enthusiastic claims regarding glute activation tend to come from overly enthusiastic fitness professionals and poorly conducted studies without the relevant controls to be published. I am literally just citing the research. I'll link it all in the description below, so don't get butthurt, and yes, pun intended, like to the moon and back. I've seen some lengthy glute activation circuits being done by lordotic Instagram chicks, but what this really does, in my opinion, is simply pre-fatigue the glutes. Like I've seen one where it was like 20 monster walks, superset with 20 clams, superset with 20 bridges, superset with, so there's a finisher, and all that will do is accumulate a large amount of metabolites, and you will feel your glutes because of the accumulation of lactate, hydrogen ions, and all those other metabolites responsible for fatigue. Another really important consideration to make is that pre-fatigue sets, which I've talked about previously, are actually detrimental to using the target muscle during the lifts. Let's say you did a push down, a tricep push down, and then you went along and did bench press. You would actually activate your chest more than your triceps because your triceps are fatigued. So those pre-exhaustion sets are a fantastic way to shift the focus away from the muscle that you just worked. So if you just did like 4,000 glute exercises and then when you did squats, your quads and lower back are going to definitely take the brunt of the load because your glutes are so fatigued. So I've got two sort of camps here. Glute activation is still somewhat useful for people to really feel the target muscle, provided that during the activation drills, acute exercise variables are administered appropriately. It shouldn't be so you can't do it anymore and you're dead and then you go along and do squats because that's detrimental. There is research showing that perhaps in injured or to prevent injury in those population groups, knee and ankle injuries can be prevented with strengthening the glutes. But in reference to previous research, this could probably be achieved by simply doing squats and lunges and single leg RDLs and other like exercises that incorporate the lower body. I think if you're going to take away anything away from this, it just pushes the point home that keeping things simple and doing compound exercises will yield the results that you need them to yield, provided you're a healthy individual and don't have any injuries. And whilst there is there's correlation data suggesting that perhaps weak glutes are a significant contributor to injury, this is just correlation data, and it's hard to establish a direct causal relationship. It's almost like a chicken or egg scenario, because this correlation data simply shows us a snapshot of what's going on and doesn't tell us what came first. So to conclude, I still think that side-lying hip abductors and clams and all that stuff are all very useful to strengthen the glute medius in particular, but I think that a lot of the claims are just over-exaggerated. Also, this light that I've bought is a ball break. It is actually blinding. I think the mechanism at play here is just an increase in like your capacity to use your glutes, and just like any other thing where you just get stronger. I don't think the term activation is useful to describe what is actually going on, because it can be very misinterpreted. And once again, the most important point to consider is that as long as you're a healthy athlete or just a healthy person in general, doing lower body exercises like squats and deadlifts and single leg variants of those lifts and hip thrusts are going to activate the glutes to a substantial degree. I hope you guys found that video as informative as you could have. And yes, if you're wondering, I have a script, because if I didn't, this would be what would happen 24/7, 365, and I would just waffle. Because if you watched my videos previously, if I was a food, I'd be a waffle, but without the syrup, because sugar is evil. No, it's not. These videos are meant to be informative, and they're just my take on some of the research that I've read, seen, heard about, or eaten. So, thanks very much, and I'll speak to you in the next video.